Imagine stepping back nearly 2,800 years into a dark, smoke-filled hall in ancient Greece. There are no smartphones, no books, and no written history. There, in the center of the room, which is lit only by a little crackling fire, sits a man. That man has an instrument in his hand called a lyre. He plucks a string and starts to sing. That is where our story begins. People call this singer Homer, and legend says that he was a blind poet who traveled from town to town carrying the entire culture, religion, and the soul of ancient Greece in his head. Now, whether Homer was one single person or a collective name for generations of people who were, great storytellers, that does not matter. What matters is what his songs and what his stories did and what impact they had. He created some of the very first blockbuster sagas in the human history. Before Homer came, stories about gods and monsters and, all of these stories were just, scattered local gossip. But when Homer came, what he did was he combined all these stories into one epic saga. He brought them together and he made his own grand universe. His songs were not just entertainment. They became the moral rule book. They became, history lessons and basically religious texts for the entire ancient Greek world. And at the heart of his greatest universe was a 10-year war that destroyed an entire golden age. Okay, now, so to understand why the entire Greek world went to war, you have to basically trace it back to a petty argument amongst the gods, a bride, and a broken royal marriage. So it all started at a grand wedding that was happening on Mount Olympus. All the gods were invited except Eris. The Eris is the god of chaos. So obviously she wasn't invited. But what they forgot to, take into consideration is that she is the goddess of chaos and she will get to know about this and wreak more chaos. So what happened eventually is, of course, she found out that she was not invited. She got very angry and decided that she will create chaos. So Eris anyways attended the party, she crashed the party and she threw a golden apple amongst the crowd when she reached the wedding. And the words that were written on the apple was to the fairest, that means to the most beautiful woman or person out there. Now, because of those words, 3 major goddesses claimed it. So first was Hera or Hera, I don't know the pronunciation, but Hera. She was the queen of gods. Second, who claimed the golden apple was Athena, which was the goddess of wisdom and war. And third, who claimed the apple was Aphrodite, which is the goddess of love and beauty, I think. Yeah, love and beauty. So to settle this fight and to settle this petty argument of the whole matter, Zeus basically made a Trojan prince called Paris. He basically gave Paris responsibility to settle this contest and, he would decide who gets the apple and who would be the most beautiful and the fairest of all. Now, naturally, the goddesses, 3 of them, they tried to bribe the prince. Hera basically offered him, him entire Asia, that he could rule over entire Asia. Athena offered him military gold and, wisdom. And Aphrodite offered him the love of Helen. Helen is supposed to be the most beautiful woman in Greece or the entire world. Guess who Paris chose? Obviously, he chose Aphrodite and he gave her the apple. And after giving her the apple, he obviously demanded her reward, which was Helen. The problem was that Helen was already married. She was the princess of Sparta, married to the powerful king called Menelaus. So years earlier, when every king in the world, every prince in Greece was trying to competing to marry Helen, her father made all the suitors sign a very sacred contract. This was called the Oath of Tyndareus, which basically said that if anybody tried to, steal Helen, every king, every person who is, who has bound themselves by this oath would have to go to war to get Helen back. So now, even though Helen was married, Paris, wanted her love, because he was promised that he would get Helen. So what he did was he basically went to Sparta as a guest, and at night he took Helen away, far away, crossed the Sea of Troy and just basically kidnapped her. Or I don't know if she went, there is a little bit of ambiguity there, whether she went, by herself or whether she was kidnapped. That's still not sure, but he basically took Helen. And now when Menelaus woke up the next morning and found that Helen is not there, he called in the Oath of Tyndareus. And of course, he also called his brother Agamemnon. And suddenly every major ruler across Greece, including the clever and the brilliant Odysseus, was also forced to, form a fleet and go to war. Literally 1,000 ships set sail across the Aegean Sea to burn the city of Troy to ground. Okay, now let's talk about the war that I mentioned earlier, and the war that basically changed everything. Now, to understand this, we have to understand how Greek mythology works. So the Greek mythology is divided into 3 major eras. So the first era is the age of gods, where, basically where creation happens, and, it's the age of Titans and Mount Olympus and all of that. The second one is the age of heroes, which is where superheroes like Heracles, Jasons, and Perseus occur. And third is the age of men, which is where magic dies out and human history begins. The Odyssey happens right at the painful end of the age of heroes. For 10 brutal years, the Greek army battered themselves against the walls of Troy. Homer told the story of this, fierce war in his first epic called the Iliad. Then came the turning point. Odysseus, known as the smartest man alive, came up with a plan, the Trojan horse, which is what the virus is also named after. But this is, if you didn't know, this is where it started. So what they did was they built a huge, giant horse and hid their best, soldiers inside the horse. And after that, they basically tricked the city of Troy to drag the horse into the city walls as a fake peace offering. It was not a peace offering. It was just deception to get, through the walls of Troy. That night, while Troy slept off their victory party, Odysseus and his men snuck out of the horse, opened the gates of Troy to let the, entire army in, and they burned Troy down to ashes. Obviously, the Greeks won and took Helen back, but in their excitement, they went too far. Drunk on power, the Greek soldiers started destroying sacred temples, innocent families who were at the holy altar, and, even started disrespecting the very gods that had helped them win. Athena was horrified. Poseidon, the lord of ocean, was raging mad. The gods reached a consensus that no hero gets an easy ride back home. They sent massive storms to shatter the Greek fleet. Some of the kings drowned. Some of them were, assassinated the moment they stepped foot into their castles or homes. And this genre of Greek mythology is known as Nostoi, which is, the agonizing struggle of Greek soldiers trying to get home. Now, this brings us directly to the Odyssey. While the Iliad is about going to war, the Odyssey is the nightmare of coming back from it. Well, the war is won, so after the war, Odysseus basically set sail to head back to his home island, Mythica, with 12 ships, hundreds of soldiers, and chests full of looted Trojan gold. It should have been a quick, 3-week boat ride across the sea, but as we all know, it turned into a 10-year nightmare. So Poseidon, because he was angry, he blew, Odysseus' fleet off the map into unknown, terrifying waters where his, Odysseus and his crew had to face like n number of monsters and n number of problems that had to occur. For 10 years, Odysseus had to, face man-eating giants called the Cyclops, deadly sea monsters, and like really scary witches who also turned his men into pigs. So by the time Odysseus finally saw his homeland, 20 whole years had passed. He left with 12 ships, and all 12 of his ships were destroyed. Every single one of his men was dead, and all his treasure, all of his gold was lost at the bottom of the sea. He didn't come back home like a proud, victorious king. He came back home alone, looking like a beggar. And he entered a home which was overrun by, greedy men and suitors trying to force his wife to marry them. This is why Homer's story is, still, very legendary, because the Odyssey isn't just a fairy tale about sea monsters and, mythical creatures. It is a story about PTSD, war trauma, and guilt. Okay, so now let's talk about the movie. So what basically Nolan did is, when he took this myth, he completely, changed the main character, Odysseus. He stripped away the mythological superhero arc, and he, replaced him with a grounded, tragic human being. So let me tell you how these two versions, the Odysseus by Homer and the Odysseus by Nolan, how are they different? So Homer's Odysseus is, shown as a very cunning trickster who basically loves proving that he's the smartest in the room. But Nolan's Odysseus, he's not flexing anything. He's not trying to prove anything. He is just, a lost soldier, a very grounded, military general who is, literally burdened by his guilt of what he had done at Troy. In Nolan's version, the Trojan horse is not a very like a wow trick, like, oh my God, this is so genius type of trick. It is a very brutal deception which led to the slaughter of women and children, and the pain of which, is shown on his face throughout the movie. He is guilty. He is very guilty. Homer's Odysseus was, obsessed with his legacy, and he wanted his name to live on, no matter how many bodies piled up. But Nolan's Odysseus is not like that at all. He doesn't care about his name and his songs or his glory at all. He is a man seeking forgiveness for what he had done at Troy. He isn't fighting the sea hazards to prove something or to conquer them. He is, he's fighting them knowing that, the gods are actively punishing him for what he had done. Homer's Odysseus, when he reached home, he slaughtered, all these suitors in a very cold manner, and, basically he established himself as the king. But in Nolan's version, Odysseus comes home, yes, he kills all the suitors, but it does not feel like victory for him. To him, it is not victory. He knows that, the man who had left Ithaca 20 years ago, he had not returned, because he had also died at Troy with all the people that he had killed. So, yeah, at the end, he just leaves with his wife. So basically, Homer gave us an invincible trickster who is, living for his glory. But Nolan gave us a tragic soldier who is trying to, live with the guilt of what he has done. By changing Odysseus from an arrogant myth to a deeply flawed human, Nolan made us realize something really terrifying. The deadliest monster on the Aegean Sea was not Poseidon or the Cyclops or any other witches or anything. It was his guilt that he carried within himself. So that was the video, guys. Let me know which character, which version of the character really hit home for you. And if you like the video, please like the video, share the video, and subscribe. And let me know in the comments, have you seen Odyssey? Did you like it? Did you not like it? Did it resonate? If you know Greek mythology, was it accurate or was it not? Yeah, that's it. Great. See you. Bye.